go challenge the leadership team to look at what this pandemic means for your company, for your organization, for your people, and really look at that and say, what can we do? What have we learned from this? What can we do differently? What would we change? Number one. Number two, be bold. Be bold in challenging and questioning and stepping up to go where you.
Welcome to another episode of the peopleHum interview series. I'm your host Sumita Mariam, and let's begin with a quick introduction of peopleHum. peopleHum is an end-to-end, one-view integrated human capital management automation platform, the winner of the 2019 Global Cody Award for HCM that is specifically built for crafted employee experiences and the future of work. We run the peopleHum blog and video channel, which receives upwards of 200,000 visitors a year, and publish around 2 interviews with well-known names globally every month. And now for our guest, Rita Trehan is the founder and CEO of Dare Worldwide. She's a former Chief People Officer and a business transformation expert. She's the winner of multiple Stevie Awards and has helped Fortune 200 companies, large corporations, and startups worldwide to transform and grow their business. She has over 30 years of working experience for global companies such as Honeywell International, AES Corporation, and AGL Energy as a senior executive and CHRO. We are extremely happy and honored to have her on our interview series today. Welcome, Rita. It's great to have you here.
It's great to be a guest. So thank you very much for asking me on the show. Yeah, I started work at the age of 2, by the way. Having heard that I've got 30 years of experience, I think I must have started when I was 2.
Okay, it's absolutely a pleasure to have you. And the first question I have for you, You've had a very incredible journey in the HR world. Can you tell us a little bit about your learnings along the way?
Yeah, of course. Yeah, I mean, there's been so many, I guess. I think the major ones have really been where I've had opportunities to actually make mistakes or fail. My major learnings have come from failures, actually, or things that didn't necessarily go as well as I would have hoped them to go. And so I think that's where I've really learned, where I've had the opportunity to try something and it hasn't worked, and then say, well, what would I do differently? So that's been a big part of my learnings. I've also learned that actually the role that HR can play is so transformational, that it is such a vital function within organisations, that's been a massive learning, just to see the scope and possibilities that we can have as a profession to not only help organisations to be successful, but actually to contribute, as we're seeing today, to much wider sort of global issues and global challenges. So I think those have been some of the key learnings. And the other one, the last one I would say, is the opportunity to learn from some great leaders. And actually some of them have been the most difficult to work with. And that's been a major learning, to say that of understanding how to position the function of HR as a business function, often with leaders that don't really understand what the function can do and how it can contribute. So that's really pushed and challenged me and made me learn and continue to learn on a constant basis. So yeah, those are probably the key ones that I can think of.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And, according to you, what would be the 2 or 3 things that would, characterize the ideal employee culture for an organization to be on the winning side in terms of growth?
Yeah, so I think culture is so underrated at this point in time, although maybe with the shifts that we are seeing across the world, we happen to be right now in a particularly disruptive environment with the pandemic of COVID-19 basically hitting the whole world. I think this is a time where companies are really actually thinking very hard about company culture and seeing what it means. So what I think is really the things that are really important is really understanding what a company's purpose is, why they exist, which is much more than just existing for a profit. And it is really understanding, what do we contribute at a much higher level that's having an impact on some sort of global challenge and issue, because CEOs today are being asked to step into that place and to have a voice, and employees are asking for that. So I think the number one thing that makes a company successful and will continue to grow is to understand their purpose, because that's the foundation of company culture. The second is really to ensure that you are engaging the people in the work that is going on and asking them about how to solve some of the issues that are happening with either internally within the workplace or externally in terms of who they may be competing with, or in response to issues that exist much broader than the organisation. So I think that's number two. And the third is having great leadership. I really think that leadership is the cornerstone of it as well, because without great leadership and great direction, you can't really drive an organisation forward. So culture has to come from the top. It starts with the CEO, and it's from there that it stems. The CEO kind of helps to be really clear and passionate about what the purpose of an organisation is. The CEO helps to model the type of leadership that you need, and it sets the voice of what that organisation and brand is about. So I think those are absolutely vital, wherever you may be in the world today.
Yeah, that's wonderful. And also as kind of an extension to that answer, we know that the role of HR has morphed, and you are a big proponent of the value of HR. So how would you advise CEOs to leverage their HR departments as organizations, as they move from business-centric to people-centric nowadays?
Yeah, that's a great question, because so many HR professionals today want to be able to contribute and are seeking ways of how to do that. And not many of them, if you like, have broken through that boundary, right? They haven't necessarily pushed themselves in a way that has enabled them to really contribute in the ways that they seek to. So my conversation with the CEO would probably go something like this. Let's look at all of the challenges that you face within your organisation today. We are seeing the rate of change happen at a speed that we have never seen before. Change is always constant, but the speed of change today is so rapid. Disruption is happening all the time. Some of it's unpredictable, some of it's predictable in the sense of new competitors coming into the marketplace. So I'd say, just think about the disruption and change that's happening. Number two, I'd say the workforce is evolving today. I mean, we are seeing 5 generations working together, never been seen before. We're seeing the rise of the gig economy. We are seeing people, particularly millennials, being much more focused in wanting to sort of look at, I want to work for a company that has some purpose or some brand or something that I feel passionate about. People are also concerned, I would say, from a workforce perspective, about, is this a sector I even want to work in? Where there are environmental challenges. So I talk about the workforce. I'd say technology is fundamentally transforming organisations. I don't believe that it will result in all these jobs disappearing. I think actually it's an enabler and potentially a liberator, but it's a challenge that CEOs have to face. I would say risk today is a whole different ball game to how companies have really thought about risk. It's tending to be commercial risk, ethical risk. Well, now we're talking about social risk. We're talking about reputational risk. We're talking about people risk. So, those are just a few that I can think of. And I go, if you think of all of those issues, what's at the heart of making sure you can address them? It's typically people. People will either help enable the success going forward, or they won't. So who do you need to have by your side as an advisor, and who has the purview of the whole organisation? The whole organisation. That's the HR function. So if you want to help and be successful as a HR person, I think it's a joint thing. So, what should CEOs be doing? I kind of say it's a two-way conversation that needs to be had. HR needs to be bringing those issues up to the table, to the CEO. And the CEO needs to understand and see that HR understands those issues, that they're thinking much more broadly about what their function does and how it can contribute, as opposed to it being, well, we'll bring HR in right at the end, when we've made all the decisions, and can you now go and be the operational arm to actually execute it? That's the difference. We both have to have that voice and be able to have those conversations that start at a business level first. And CEOs need to be pushing HR, and not, just like anything else, they shouldn't tolerate or accept HR that is not delivering that kind of value.
Oh, that's a wonderful answer. I mean, that's an absolute eye-opening answer. That two-way communication, and that's really interesting. And as we talk a lot about changes, some major changes, is there anything that is lying ahead that you find scary as well as exciting in terms of work culture? Now that we are going through the whole pandemic situation, what is your opinion on that?
I think a couple of things on that. I think companies that have been really, really clear about their purpose and being true about their purpose are going to be the ones that come out the winners of this. We have seen how organisations are responding to the pandemic that's happened. And those that are actually contributing in ways that are aligned with their values and purpose will have increased their brand trust.
Yeah.
Exponentially, right? There is no doubt in my mind that will happen. So I think how businesses respond is going to be really, really important. What do I think, are the key challenges? What do I worry about? See both as an opportunity and a challenge, I guess, would be companies that don't understand or they probably understand it. I shouldn't say don't understand, but don't take advantage of the fact that actually through this pandemic, there is a unique opportunity of a burning platform that has not existed before, where every business is facing the same kind of issues, albeit at different scales, to actually step back and rethink how they organise, how they're structured, what they do, how they market their services, solutions, or products, how they innovate, how they even change their ways of working. Yeah. A company that doesn't take the time, and it goes back to your earlier question around culture, if they don't take the time to really take advantage of what have they learned from this? What have they learned from this process that they didn't know, or that they had maybe not understood the significance of it? I think that worries me to the extent that that's such a missed opportunity. And I think the other thing is, I hope that what we see is the employee voice coming to the table, because we'll see people would have had to make decisions at a speed and a rate that they probably not had to do before, or been given the opportunity to do before. So this is a time to really capture that going forward. But those are things I think, I think are great opportunities, but it's what we do with them. And HR has such a massive role to play in that, to be pushing for that kind of disruption and change right now.
Yeah, that is so true. And if we focus a little bit on managers now, so what do you think are the practices that managers should be practicing right now to increase the employee engagement of a firm? What can they do?
It's interesting because I'm in the process of writing 2 books. I'm contributing to one and writing my second book. And I've spent a lot of time actually reflecting on leaders and what's the difference between, great leaders and leaders. And I've come to a view that a lot of it is around self-reflection. Leaders that are really, really good at self-reflecting are the ones that will do the best going forward, because they stay in check of what's working, and they learn. They're constantly learning, and they're constantly curious, and they're constantly seeking input and feedback. And I think that self-reflection, I have not really been able to crystallize it before, but the more I look at companies that are successful, and the more I look at leaders that sort of start out as being these great leaders, but then kind of fall by the wayside, and you go, what happens in those situations? What causes people who many of us have admired and gone wow, what a great leader, and then seen them go yeah, I don't know, I'm not so sure about that leader anymore. And I think it's that ability to be self-reflective and to not let ego drive success in the future. So those leaders that are egoless, one of the best CEOs I know once said to me, you can't be egoless. And I said, no, I agree. I said, everybody has an ego, but it's about whether your ego is driven for something that is more than just serving yourself. You know, are you focused on something that's more important, organizational ego, if you like? So I don't know, that's where I guess I'm landing, that's the leaders that are going to be the ones that shine bright. I hope. I have a great hope in young leaders and what they may bring in the future. That's what I'm betting on.
Yeah, but do you also think that the leaders of today are actually struggling a lot, because you need to have all this empathy for your employees, because they are going through something that they've never been through before, and there's all this anxiety of working from home and taking care of a family. So, and every leader, they can't go like one on one with each member of their team and say, what are you going through, and things like that. So how would you say a leader should handle that situation of keeping that well-being of employees at mind?
I think being transparent with them and honest and sharing that, leaders that have the humility to actually say, I'm actually struggling with this myself. I am going through this kind of uncertainty and I'm having to cope with working from home. Maybe, they've got their homeschooling if they've got children. They're trying to run a business. There are constantly things changing. I think sharing that they are vulnerable is something that will connects leaders to their people. We see vulnerability as a trait that's a bad thing, that you shouldn't show that you're vulnerable, because that means that you're not strong or that you're weak. But actually, vulnerability is a rare strength. Yeah. And it's such an important strength. So I would encourage them to, one, sort of share that, but I would also say, find ways to communicate, find ways to tell people what you know. And if you don't know what the answer is, be transparent with them about that. What people don't necessarily want to know the definitive answer. What they want to know is, are you being honest with me? Can I trust that what you say is true? And if a leader goes, I don't know if we're going to be in business for the next 6 months, but here's our plan for how we're going to make sure we do everything we can, we'll go a lot further than either no communication or saying, yes, we are, and then 3 months later, laying people off. So trust and transparency and vulnerability, I would say, are absolutely critical.
Yeah, that's wonderful.
And listen to people, because don't try and guess what people want. We spend our time as leaders trying to think what we think people want, but actually, when you ask people, it might be something completely different.
Yeah, I know that makes a lot of sense. I mean, you can't just guess what they're going through, and all this, transparency and vulnerability, and being honest with what we are going through right now. I think that's so, like, if someone feels down and you see the rest of them are like super energetic, and you don't even know if they're honest, so that's like very confusing. So that makes a lot of sense. Yeah. So I think we all have to be like truly honest and trust each other on what we are going through, and be together as a team and a leader. So that's wonderful, Rita. I love that answer. And also, when we are thinking about setting organizational goals,
mm-hmm.
I think that the matters that managements should keep in perspective while setting them.
I think the world is changing constantly. So I think the days of setting goals as like annual goals and 3-year goals should also change. I think it's great to have that view about where you want to go, but I think you've got to now be constantly reviewing and be able to pivot if the environment changes, and have that ability to say, okay, we've set this goal. Does this still make sense this week, this month, this quarter? And that constant renewal, that constant review, I think is absolutely critical, because you cannot predict the next change that is going to happen. And we live in a world where we like certainty, we like to be able to predict, and we like the past to guide us to what the future is. That's not the reality of the world today. So we have to have the ability to be constantly curious and constantly challenging goals. So I'd say absolutely have a vision, stay the course of the vision, be clear on what your company purpose is. I keep talking about that because I do think sort of, purpose, profit and planet, I didn't come up with that. That was written by an author many years ago. And it's so true today that those three things should really guide organizations forward. And that constant review is what helps to ensure that they stay in the game.
Yeah, that's so true. And Rita, just to kind of wrap up the interview process, if you have any last important sound bites that you would like to leave our audience.
Oh, this is HR's opportunity to really step up. So I would say, go challenge the leadership team to look at what this pandemic means for your company, for your organization, for your people, and really look at that and say, what can we do? What have we learned from this? What can we do differently? What would we change? Number one. Number two, be bold. Be bold in challenging and questioning and stepping up to go where you think you can go. Don't be fearful of, stepping up there and trying something that may or may not work. And the third thing I would say is expand your learning and your horizons so that you learn beyond your own professional expertise. I challenge HR leaders all the time, and leaders, by the way, not just HR, but leaders, boards, learn about technologies, learn about what's happening globally. Understand what the UN sustainable goals are, what critical global challenge are you contributing to change, and invest. Sorry, my last one is invest in great leadership. Invest, spend as much time as you do looking at operational results as you do in valuing and developing the capability that's going to take you forward. That was a lot of sound bites, sorry.
But that's wonderful. I mean, you gave us a small capsule of a lot of thoughts. So that's wonderful. And thank you so much, Rita. It was such a pleasure talking to you, and I really appreciate your time and sharing your views with us. And it's been such an enriching experience for me personally, and I think it's really going to help our viewers also. So
Thank you very much.
Yes, I will stay in touch with you and have a great day ahead.
Thank you very much. It's been great to be on the show, so thank you.
Thank you.